You were talking about your purchase of the Fedco Food Corporation. How, and how Prudential loaned you the money. How difficult was it for people of color at that time to borrow money from a lending institution?
Well,
this is in the late 60s, I suppose. Yes.
It was damn near impossible.
Yes.
And when you talked about, in those days, $2.7 million, you were talking about the Treasury of the United States.
Yes.
I mean, it was, you know, it was unheard of, let's put it that way.
Is it any different now?
I think it's gotten some different. I can say at one point in my business career, I borrowed $500 and some million. So I think and I said I never thought I'd borrow $500 and some million, but I did.
That's right. That's right.
But things have changed, and not ideally. And that is not to say that there's not a lot of problems, a lot of prejudice, and a lot of other things going on all the time. But things are getting better, slowly but surely. But they're getting better.
So there is hope.
Well, as Jesse would say, you got to keep hope alive.
Yes, exactly. Well, you also expanded both the properties and profits of Fedco in the first few years after you bought the chain. How did you do this?
Well, the first thing I got to tell you is that running a supermarket is probably the toughest, hardest job that anybody could ever have. And you're going to say, well, why do you say that? And here's the reasoning. The supermarket makes 2 cents profit, gross profit, on every dollar's worth of sales. Supermarket nets 1 cent. So when a nice lady like yourself comes into the store and she says, I'd like to have a loaf of bread, and you give her a loaf of bread, and then she says, can I have it double bagged? You want to take this nice little old lady and kill her, because the 2 bags cost 3 cents a piece, so a total of 6, and she just wiped out all your profit in the loaf of bread. But
that's interesting.
Well, that's how close things can go on in the supermarket. So if you can run one and run one successfully and keep it in the black, then you're usually a pretty good manager about everything else.
But you also mentioned that you kept some of the employees.
Yeah, I kept the two fellows who owned it. One was name was Herb Poses, and Ralph Poses. And one of them stayed with me, as I said, all the way through until I sold the company in 1980 something. And Ralph had an automobile accident. He left about 2 years later, but they stayed.
So the former owners stayed, yeah. And did you keep some of the employees as well?
No, kept the employees. Well, the big challenge to us was to grow the business, because that's how you provide job opportunities. So we went from 10 stores to a total of 29 stores.
Fantastic.
We went to stores that were 10,000, bigger stores. And
all in the Bronx?
Well, it started, one was at 114th in Madison, right over here. One was at 125th and Broadway up here. One was 161st in St. Nicholas Avenue. One's 180th Street and Broadway. All the rest of them are mostly in the Bronx, Laconia Avenue, Intervale Avenue, Southern Boulevard.
Very good. Okay.
I can still remember them because I used to go to them every weekend I came home. It's the truth.
I bet you did, because you appear to be a hands-on.
When I was in the government, and I come home on the weekends, I would get in my car at 12 o'clock on Saturday and start driving, and I drove to every store I owned. And if I didn't show up on that day, the guys would want to know where was I.
Did you learn that from your father and your mother?
Well, I learned from these two fellows too. They told me, what you've got to make sure you don't do is to become isolated from the thing that's really running the engine for you, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So, we had girls, for example, in the office, and the guys would call up and say, well, we lost our closing number last night, and we needed to start the day's business. And they'd say, well, we're busy right now. And he'd come out of the office screaming. He said, you're never too busy. You only work here. You don't count for a hill of beans in this deal. He counts for a hill of beans, because if he doesn't make the sale and if he doesn't make the money, then he can't pay his own salary or your salary. And that's what you got to understand. just what your role is in something, and you can get this big idea that you're the big cheese, but the big cheese usually gets eaten by somebody.
Yes, and is dependent on so many people,
That's
too.
right.